My name is Rich Schmidt. We're here with Becky Potter. We're at Meraviglioso Winery in Newberg. It's March 19th, 2024. And Becky, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
First question, why wine?
Dundee Hills. Ultimately, my husband said to me, one time too many, sweet girl, should we be doing wine and not trees? And then that day in March, after it had been pouring and gray and miserable, and the sun came out and the daffodils were blooming and the robins were everywhere, and I said, yes, we're close to 60, let's start farming. And so here we are.
We'll catch back up to that in a moment. Let's talk about life before wine. So tell us about where you were born and raised and kind of early life into school.
I am an Oregon girl, born and raised. Webbed foot and the whole 9 yards. My husband is as an Oregonian, I hesitate to admit, he's a California transplant.
No.
Very young. But he's from closer down to Sweet Home and moved up here in the 80s. He and I have been together for 8 years. As I was saying, he pretty much said one time too many. And so that's how we ended up here in the short story, which I'm sure we'll elaborate a little more on that. But I'm a nurse. I was a nurse. I'm a retired RN. I guess I need to get better at saying that. I'm a retired RN. That's painful. My husband is a mechanical engineer. And so...
and that's Terry.
Yeah, Terry. He got called out today for an emergency machine repair, so he can't be with us. But mechanical engineer, his specialty is designing turnkey machines. My favorite story ever is the pom-pom king of Northwest lives in Portland. Who knew? And by pom-poms, I mean go team. And so he needed to replace some employee repetitive injury things and called Terry to come take a look at it and the possibility of making a machine to make pom-poms. And so by the time we were just started dating, and by the time he came to have coffee with me before my shift, he knew exactly what the machine was going to look like and what it was going to do, how much space it would take, and the whole 9 yards. He's magic. He is just magic, the way he sees the world. So anyway, he's still working as a mechanical engineer. So we have a machine shop and a fab shop here on the property as well. And then kind of the rest of this chaos falls to me.
So you mentioned that you were a nurse or now retired nurse. Tell me about sort of the path to becoming a nurse.
It was a second career after maybe a third or a fourth career, maybe. But I worked as a personal trainer for a long time, and then went to nursing school and worked up at the Portland VA and quit in 19. Yeah, right. Beautiful timing. Thank you, Lord. But as it turns out, I just hadn't been feeling well, and we found out I had cancer. So quit, did the whole chemo, blah, blah, whatnot. Finished all of that just in time for COVID. So, and then we started making wine in 17. We opened for tastings outside in 20 because, plague. Why not?
Tell me a little bit about your interest in wine before it became a business. What point did you start to become interested in wine?
Much like my children and all of them, Stephanie, my assistant, whom you just met, we all worked at Starbucks at one point together, years and years and years ago. But as we all of us were coffee masters, and when you learn to taste the nuance in coffee, you learn to taste. And a friend, I had never been a wine drinker actually, and a friend came for Thanksgiving and brought some wine. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago maybe. And I was like, oh, this is really good. And I kind of picked out what I thought I liked about it. And she's like, I thought you'd never had wine. It's like, well, I haven't. So I knew then that it was something that I would really like. But then, life. And honestly, I hadn't revisited wine seriously in 20 years or more. And so ultimately it was my husband, it was Terry saying, should we be doing wine? We're in Dundee Hills, why would you not? That got us kind of going to tasting rooms and asking questions and researching and learning and all of that to prompt the decision.
Well, you mentioned you were doing something before grapes. What were you doing before going to wine with the property?
The whole property was in forest deferral. And so we have 28 acres, and it was all in forest deferral. And we had to take out a whole load of trees around the front of the property. As you come up the driveway, you can see the vines, the estate vines, and so you can see where that was all in tree, and we took that all out. So it was cute. We had some younger visitors, not for wine, but we had some younger visitors for the property one day for some other things, and they were like, can you tell me about the deforestation? Like, it's 8 acres. It's actually not going to count as deforestation. We're still got plenty in trees. Oregon will survive.
So let's back up a moment to you and Terry. How did you two meet?
We both actually had been married for, Terry had been married for almost 30 years, and I'd been married for just over 30, when we both kind of had enough of what we had. And so we had both been single for a time, and we both had friends that encouraged us to online dating. And whilst I might be a little more tech savvy, I'm going to say mechanical engineer. He's this guy. This guy. Tech savvy is not part of his realm. And so his friend really walked him through all of that. But we met easily, and it was one of those things where we'd both had other coffee dates, and this story then, we met for coffee and went to dinner, and soon the waitress was saying, I have to close out, it's the end of the night. And so next thing you know, we were like, well, let's go get a coffee. And pretty soon at Sherry's, it was midnight, and I'm thinking, I have to go. So it was really so simple and so easy to be next to one another from the first minute. And that kind of very easily fit together.
So tell me about the property then. At what point did you acquire the property? At what point did you come into sort of the forestry?
Terry bought the property in the late 90s. It was covered in blackberries, and he, at that time, again, mechanical engineer, where it was located, meant nothing to him outside of ease of building a machine shop and getting material here for the machine shop, and everything else was secondary, and kind of, almost to this day still is. But it's so, he cleared the blackberries and built the machine shop, and then found the plans for the house that he loved and just started building it as he could afford. And really, that's sort of, and that was in the late 90s. The house, I think, was up and done around 2002 or 3. And we both grew up as farm kids. We both have the value of you don't do it if you can't pay for it. And so in today's world, that's a pretty rare thing. And so everything that we do, it's a little painful even to us, because we feel like it takes so long to get where we want to go. But to get there without debt is such a big deal to us. And, like I said, we're pushing 60. And so I don't want to live the rest of our life with debt service, and nor do we want to leave that kind of thing attached to us and or the property or whatever for our children.
So you mentioned sort of the conversation happened and about getting into wine potentially, and then once you got excited about it, once you started thinking about it, you started visiting other places and seeing. So tell me about the exploration before starting the winery. Tell me about what you saw in Oregon wine.
The romance. I think that Oregon wine, I think we do it well. I think in Oregon wines we do it, I'm maybe even going to say we do it right, because in going and doing tastings both here as a tourist in our hometown and when we travel, that's kind of one of our favorite things, is to travel. And so anytime that we go elsewhere and do tastings, it's such a different experience, where by and large in the valley, Willamette Valley, I feel like when we go wine tasting, we're cared about. Like someone is taking care of us for the next hour and a half. Your job is me. And that is as much or as little as I dictate it to be, depending on how nuanced the server is. And I'm always a little bit sad, I guess, when we're elsewhere and someone says, "Here's your flight, thank you." And it's like, wait, what are you going to tell me about your wine or your story, or when do you want to ask me about mine? Or it just kind of makes me sad. And especially if in the rare times that happens around here, that is sad, because I do feel like by and large here in the valley especially, we do it well. And I mean, we were just actually down in Medford tasting recently and visiting another winemaker, and man, it was so nice. We were so cared about everywhere we went, and it's really, really nice. Having said that, from the outside in, man, that was hard. That was really hard. We, in kind of poking around and trying to figure out, is it an industry that you could get into or should get into, or why? Or when I look at tasting rooms being everything from the latest 10 by 10 pole barn to what a few years ago was Furioso's beautiful, beautiful new facility. How is it all debt service? Is everybody able to write a check to pay for that? There was almost no way to know. It from the outside in, it is such a closed industry, and it was the number one thing we got and still get, if we ever say anything or hear anything, is people constantly are saying, if you want $1 million, start with 4. And it's like that it doesn't makes sense to us that everywhere you turn, people are only looking to spend money instead of giving it to the government. They wouldn't have that money to spend if they were being foolish with it in the first place. So that doesn't really add up. And yet, it's like we finally just decided, well, we're going to dive in. Because we own the property, so why not? It seemed to us at the end of the day, it's better for the property to be under vine than dug fir. Dundee Hills.
So once you made the decision to dive in, take us through the process of coming up with all the things you had to come up with, figuring out the space.
No, I still don't.
Figuring out the name.
If you have a checklist, I would love to see it. Because I'm pretty sure I still haven't checked all the boxes.
Let's start with what you wanted to present from a sort of a hospitality perspective. What did you want it to look like?
The name of our tasting room, our winery, is Meraviglioso. And that means actually wondrous or wonderful in Italian. And so there's kind of the same story and sort of a double side, as with most, a double sides to the story. We're both rather pragmatic. And so, what descriptors could we come up with that are blah, blah, blah? And then equally, the more soupy, the more soupy part of that story comes to be, it's true. That's really the crux of it is it's just true. Where at 50 and 54, when we met, to easily go on your first date and find someone that you could spend the next 8 hours talking to, that's a little gift from God. And then every single time for so long to be able to just fit so naturally that there wasn't really the butterflies of, is he going to hold my hand? Do I hold his hand? Which is still, in a 50, you're still never not in high school. Kids, if you're watching this, you're never not in high school. And it's true. So true. It's painful and it's so true. And so, but to easily fit that it just was natural one day, maybe like the second time we saw each other, to just be holding hands as it's just so simple and easy and good and right and holy. And so I don't even know what you're saying to me. Oh, how did we come up with the nonsense of all of that? Sorry. But, right, and so that is sort of true. That is wonderful. And so what conveys all of that? So we went to the diner downtown for breakfast. We like to go out to breakfast. It's our favorite thing. And so we went to the diner downtown with, Google Translate and thought what words in what language. We have a giant pink stucco house, although my husband would tell you it's peach. It's a very pink peach. Yep, it is. Right. What you don't see is them turning to look. But it is very Tuscan feeling back here, and we both love Italy, and so Italian was our go-to thought in terms of language or whatever. So, Meraviglioso. Phonetically, it's Meraviglioso, which most people don't know phonetics anymore. I don't know how. Again, that makes me old, I'm certain. Nonetheless, Meraviglioso. It's a terrible business name. I can own that. I understand that. But it's so pretty. And there's a big metal laser cut on the wall inside. It's just so pretty, and it's Meraviglioso. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, it becomes, people say, the one that starts with an M, they have Bella. And they go, oh yeah, I know, exactly right. And then funny enough, that what kind of clinched it. And I know, again, it's sort of a bad business practice in terms of branding. And yet, believe it or not, NewbergWinery.com was available, as was DundeeHillsPinot.com. Who would have thought? I mean, so I just took those and routed both of those to MeravigliosoWinery.com, because it's way easier to say, just if you're going to make a note, NewbergWinery.com will get you there. It gets you to the address, and Google will do the rest. So it becomes very simple, albeit I know a little convoluted in terms of branding. But that's how we ended up with Meraviglioso.
I love that. That's a wonderful explanation. What did you want the guest experience to look like? I
struggled with that, which is, I feel like it's a little funny to say that, but I really struggled with it because I, in fact, when we hire guys for the machine shop, Terry 100% of the time tells them, she's a mom. She's a professional mom. She doesn't know how to not be the mom. She will bite you, and then she will hug you. I'm very quick to tell the boys exactly what I think and why. I can back it up exactly every time. And then I go, but thanks for coming to work today. Do you need a hug? And so I really struggled with that, actually, funny enough. It seems funny to say it since I've decided to just embrace me, which is silly. But I just don't know how to not mom our guests to some extent. And so I will often provide something fresh and or baked. I want things to smell good. In January, if you come in for a concert, I want it to smell warm and inviting inside the tasting room. So and I know in theory, I'm not supposed to have any scents that struggle with the nose of your wine and all of the things that you're supposed to do. And I just really suck at following rules. I suck at the things that I'm supposed to do because I just am so damn gingery, I guess, but I'm really good at that. So we've just kind of embraced that. And I believe, additionally, that food and wine are best friends. And so when able, we have concerts on Sundays and I just can't chat with you or provide the full story of my wine, et cetera, while we have 50 people out here. I can't give you a small bites to go with all of the nonsense when it doesn't work that way. But any other time, I will always give you a little tray of whatnot. I'll often tell you what I did it and why I did it and what it is and why it goes with our wine. I really work hard to make whomever's here to be the most important person that's here today. Because I only get to see you for an hour today, but I don't know that anybody else is going to care about an hour in your day. And I also work at Clackamas County Jail and the VA, and it is a really nice thing to be able to make somebody's day better. It's like we just a couple weeks ago, we had a painting class and this fella came in with his wife, and I'm sure it probably wasn't his choice to be here. And he wasn't particularly happy that he had to be here. And he kind of came in swinging, looking for a fight. And his wife, just verbally, but his wife was like looking at Stephanie, my assistant, going, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "Friend, tell me your problems. Let's get you some things." Figured out what he wanted. I got him a glass. Like, how can I make your day better, right? Let's in this moment, Tell me what I can do. And the funny thing is, he was the life of the party for the whole 4 hours that everyone was here. And so it's a great, happy kind of job. It's so fun. 21st birthday just left as you folks were getting here, and it's a really nice thing to get to be part of that memory and it's a get to. I used to say that all the time, to like things in life that are get to should be acknowledged. And so this look at me working. My 10-year-old grandson is upstairs playing, and it's like this is all I get to.
Tell me about putting in, obviously we drove by the vines, tell me about putting in the vineyard and diving into that part of the industry as well.
There are 3.5 acres of Chardonnay as you first come up the drive. Chardonnay is the most popular white. And Dundee Hills Chardonnay is not. It is becoming, more and more people are starting to plant Chardonnay here in the hills, and yet it's not widely planted like Pinot. So that was an easy choice. And then, of course, Pinot, because Dundee Hills. So those are the rules. And then we also farm, as you came down the stone road over here, there's some steps going down into the meadow back here, and then up the way back are 6.5 acres, almost 7, of Pinot that we farm out there, up there. So that keeps us busy. But ultimately, we found a grower in California that his values aligned, his prices aligned, and so we started writing fat checks. That's how painfully that occurred. But honestly, I got a text from him this morning, and our baby vines are still on this end. There's a section of Pinot that's just a couple years old, and he regularly checks in, and he's just great. So horribly expensive little adventure, and yet these might actually be the most prayed for vines in all of Dundee Hills because it is so horribly expensive, but it's so fun to watch. I just had Stephanie out walking the vines with me the other day. I'm like, look, little baby buds, they're coming. So time to start being paranoid about weather soon.
You mentioned that you opened for business in 2020. So tell me a little bit about sort of opening day or getting rolling with tastings at that time, at that sort of challenging time. It was everybody's favorite topic, I know.
The funny thing is, I don't know, or I didn't know what I didn't know. And so in today's digital social media world, nothing's real till you put it on Facebook. So I did, and just started posting. Honestly, I can't even tell you what I was posting at the time now, but sure enough, somebody called saying, hey, can we come for a tasting? And I said, sure. And so outside of what we had experienced as tastings, then I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing in retrospect, which, funny enough, isn't much different than what I'm doing now. So that was good. And then they didn't want to stand on a lot of 2020 ceremony, and neither did I. We stayed outside, and it was just fine. It was a lot of fun. So it was a really nice, for a nurse and an engineer, it was a really nice toe in the water to kind of start baby stepping our way in mid-plague, which, sorry if that's less than politically correct way to refer to the plague.
So as it expanded then, and as things started to loosen up a little bit, tell me about starting to kind of merge into a more normal operation, or more, maybe something more that like what you had intended to do.
Yeah, networking, who you know, the concentric circles of life, the 6 degrees of separation, all of those things matter. And it just sort of had a natural evolution that people, you tell 2 people, which I wish that was, I don't even think you guys are that old. That was a refer to a commercial from a long, long time ago. Sorry. But 70s maybe. But right, and so as a couple people heard we were open, and they came once or twice, and so another person came once or twice, and it was just became this nice toe in the water to kind of start doing. And then my husband is a drummer. That's his side gig, and so we started having a jam that kind of grew into a regular weekly thing, and that was fun. And it's art and music, I guess, are the 2 things that we both love outside of, if we were going to say, where would we go, what would we do, it would be traveling, art and music. And so we started having concerts, and we stayed outside. Maybe we didn't start having concerts till 21, I guess, but still we stayed outside, and it's all been fine. It's all just been fine. And still, that's what we do. We have a lot of weekend art classes. We have live music almost every Sunday, because part of that motivation is, in a sea of boutique and micro boutique, which a little bit, frankly, I super dislike that label. I find it to be I'm not a micro boutique in terms of a little pole barn at the top of a driveway. So I've got a good game, and so I just like when I have to be into that category, or had to be maybe in past tense, but still, it's a really fun way to get people in the sea of baby wineries, little wineries, new wineries, all of those things, to stand out, because the people that tend to like the things that we like are the ones that show up. Mm-hmm. And already this year, which is kind of fun, people are turning up just to have a glass on the back patio, which is fantastic, where, as COVID was still more of a concern and all the things, that wasn't quite happening. It waxed and waned, I guess, is the right way to say that. So I'm already hopeful that this summer we'll have I love it when it's full back here for a concert, and I love it when somebody's reading a book and someone's over here having a meeting and whatever. Those are all such nice situations.
So you've talked a bit about your events already, obviously, especially weekends and things. Tell me about how you've seen those kind of bring people together, or kind of fulfill the mission you want to have this place fulfill.
It's so fun. It is. I don't hire bad bands. I don't hire bands I don't like their way. I mean, they have to be kind, good people. Everybody's local, and it's so fun. And it was an easy way in because Terry's a drummer and has played with several people, and knew that guy who played with that guy, and so it's like I a little bit got, and not that you have to backdoor anybody, for heaven's sakes, it's not that hard to find musicians. They're all hungry and looking for the next gig. Nonetheless, it was nice to have a sense of familiarity with quite a few of them in the beginning. And we've had enough music here now, and enough people have, we're kind of a music venue, I guess, now. And so people are seeking us out a little bit, which is nice. And we work really hard to be consistent with day and time so that people know, hey, what's going on at Meraviglioso on Sunday? Because there's always something. So, but it's a lot of fun. And Friday, went to dinner with some club members, and, they were here on Sunday. And it's, I guess, community. That you asked me a little while ago, what was one of our ideals that we wanted to put into this. And the sense of wonder and romance of getting to have a best friend and partner at our age, but also community, where I know everybody, we all have clubs, we all have the things that we do, but I really want to work on that sense of community, where I can say, Diana, so-and-so. Did you guys know so-and-so joined the other day? Let me introduce you. And then next thing you know, I get to hear the story of when they were all out, and Sunday, so-and-so said, you're going to be here all summer with us. You may as well just join. You don't want to pay covers. I was like, that's right. But all of that matters, and it's a sense of what you get to do that other people don't, or you get a something with it, or you get a little bit of us, that everybody else, I mean, that sounded really obnoxious. Not that there's anything special or fantastic about us, other than we just work really hard to make the space for all of that to happen. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's where that is going.
You also talked about art as a secondary passion. Tell me a little bit about your interest in art and your participation in it, and how that plays into this space.
We're just both nerds. We're such nerds. But there's that. But because we all have COVID hobbies. What's yours? We all have one. And we like to travel. And so I said one day early on, when we go to Paris, because it's given, everybody's going to go if you like to travel. It's on the top 10 list of places you have to go if you're going to travel. And so I said, when we go to Paris, I want to sit at a coffee shop where I can see the Eiffel Tower and whatever little charming whatever is right here, and paint it. I can't paint. I know nothing about painting. Terry's an engineer. He can draw anything. He's very, very talented portrait artist. And so, almost square by almost square ellipse. I started learning, and he very gently said, well, that's not it. But a lot of effort went into that. But so that's just been the goal. So, in the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever it's been, we've spent a lot of time drawing, pencil, pastels, watercolor, acrylic, oil, you name it. Which, again, part of it was on, I don't know that I really believe in bucket lists, but it was on my bucket list. It was something that I hadn't done yet. And so Painting has always been something that I wanted to do, but I love it as much as I thought I would. And what I was saying, how much I value community. There's a little artist in town who started teaching at Chehalem, and I go take her classes, and we've had artist book clubs here since then. We do plein air painting here with this little group, but the community, again, the community of artists that she has brought together, know that this is also a place that they get to come and can come, and as do other groups. And it's so nice, it's so good. But my grandson, we were there this morning. So he went and painted with everybody in her class this morning. And it's just so fun. So that's kind of how that all came about. And to the point right now, I'd flip my hair if that's a little more self-assured. But everything on the walls inside right now is mine. So that's really kind of fun. It's super fun to be busy when people are here and hear somebody saying something about it. I'm like, oh, thanks for that. So, but yeah, we just love that kind of nerdy stuff. And it's fun to do classes where paint and sip watercolor, paint and sip acrylic, paint and sip Bob Ross. Actually, Bob Ross is ridiculously fun, but people come in all unsure and quiet and just very in their own bubble, and then you start, and pretty soon people are like, get a glass, and they're more so, maybe 2 glasses, and they're like, oh my God, that looks so good. How did you do that? It's so fun to watch. It's so fun. So anyway, that's part of why we love art. And just Terry recently, we'd been talking about it, and one of the book clubs was here, and he said rather astutely that we believe everybody should be able to afford art, and you just can't, and that's kind of silly. And so that's part of our motivation for some of these things, because it's fun.
So we've talked about basically everything except for the wine so far. So let's talk about the wine a little bit. You mentioned obviously the grapes you wanted to plant. So tell us about the first wines and what you've been sort of striving for to put into glass.
Let me tell you about my girls. We, of course, started with Pinot because, again, you have to. It's Dundee Hills. And I worried a little bit in the beginning. Like, when you buy a bottle wherever or at the grocery store, whenever you read the whatnot on the back of the bottle, it's like, how do they come up with that? That is really? And then, really, the more I got to know our wine, that first iteration, and since, it's so fun. It's so fun. This is 2019 Chardonnay. If I were pouring this for you, I'd hug the bottle a little bit and say, she's my summer romance. She never, ever lets me down. A little bit of tropical fruit on the nose, and she's not that big, heavy California Chardonnay. It's just not. But still, in the back of your palate, you're going to get just this little finish of brioche that pairs so wonderfully with the pineapple goodness that you had in the front. And it's so fun to get 2 tell people that story about that wine. It's so fun to think about what, if we're doing a winemaker's dinner or any number of things that come up with that, to think about what I'm going to pair with it and provide the recipe. And I just think those things are so fun, which I guess a little bit nerds me out again, but it's so fun. 21 is, well, we're bottling 22 Pinot today and a Cab, and we should just talk about how delicious that Cab is. But it's so fun to get to know them and then to get to share that with people, because, and I always say she, because lovely things are feminine. Sorry, boys. It's just a truth. God made it that way. I had nothing to do with it. But it's just so good. And, you know, one of the funny things is almost always, if I say some tropical fruit, I perhaps think it's pineapple. Across the board, almost always, people are like, yep, pineapple, because it's what was suggested as you're doing it. And so I just love the reactions when people have never been tasting, and to kind of teach them how to like get the nose, and it's just, all of it is so fun. And I no one else refers to their wines as she. They just don't. Although somebody's going to start. I'm sure they will. But it's so fun because almost always, right, you have a certain number. These folks were here the other day, this group of people that had never been wine tasting, couldn't say the name, wanted to figure out what it was, so they came. So it was really fun to get to kind of weave all of that story for them. And then equally, people come who are well-versed in Oregon Pinots and wine, and they equally find it entertaining because no one else says she is my summer romance. And so I just love telling people about our wine because it's just good fun.
Well, you mentioned Cab, obviously not a typical Oregon wine, especially Dundee Hills wine offering. So tell us how Cab came to be part of the selection.
Bigger red. I'm probably not supposed to say this. Again, I'm really bad at the things I'm supposed to do. But I get really bored of an entire flight of Pinot. I just find it so boring. I mean, maybe 2 out of 5, I'm there, and yet, so we always start with white. I like to include a rosé, of course, and sometimes bubbles, depending on the occasion. Always at least 2, maybe 3 Pinots, depending on the flight. Almost always it's dealer's choice. We do a flight of 5. By that I mean 6. And it's nice to finish with a bigger red. Or we have a dessert wine, which is a nice way to finish too, but people ask.
And you're excited about the Cab.
Oh, she's so good. This bigger, rounder mouthfeel is just velvety, and it just lingers on your palate long enough to let you want the next sip. That is how it should be.
So you mentioned obviously travel, a big part of your life. Tell me about some of the influential travels or impactful travels you've had, and places you haven't been yet that you want to go.
Well, Italy. We were there for about a month in 19. Just in between finding out and starting chemo, we went to Italy for a month, and man, that is just good. everybody should go. So there's that. And we just don't believe in the once in a lifetime. Nothing should be once in a lifetime. We're gonna go back. I can't afford it today. I don't have the money to do that, but we're gonna do it. And so, it's like we just save every month. I stick a little money away because pretty soon, 50 or 100 or 2 becomes enough to go. And if you can go for 2 weeks, man, wait another year. Just wait. Because the longer you get to be there and the more you get to experience the back alley behind that building that just barely wide enough for hips. But it's so good. I mean, we went to the oldest wine bar in Venice. Da Vinci was there then. That's kind of badass. That's so cool, and then fill in all the other nerdy things about us that I said, and it all just culminates into a really nice glass of wine. But it's so fun. And then the architecture and dinner takes an hour and a half for just dinner. It's not, you're not in and out inside of 40 minutes for a full, it's so nice to you exhale and your shoulders come back to where they're meant to be. And it's like everything is just a little greener or bluer and it's better. And and that's the good stuff, But then we got off the bus in the wrong place and some guy says, yeah, of course, it's just around here. You'll be fine. So here we are packing, such big suitcases for 4 miles. And I still love him. I mostly loved him that night. But those are the things that make memories, and those are the things that you laugh about now. Well, weren't laughing then, but those are the good things, and those are the things that then when I say to the 10-year-old who's upstairs, oh, but here's what happened when, and we just did that this, I was say weekend, but I guess it's in the week. He's on spring break. Still, and it ties the world together for the 30-something kids who help tie the world together for the 10-year-olds, that the world is not that big. It's just not. And people are just folks everywhere. And it's so good.
So we talked a lot about how you've gotten to this place and gotten your space here. So tell us a little bit about what comes next. What are you excited about for the future of Meraviglioso and the wine here?
And so what I'm hearing is when two type A's get together is, if I had a bottle, I would show you the tale of how that came to be. Will you grab a bottle of red or yell at Stephanie? You can take a picture or do whatever you need to do. But we are currently using this back patio space, and our tasting room is just behind us. But we would love to build. We have permits to build. We have permits to build. This is what we'd like the tasting room to be fashioned after. The original iteration of this building is a Roman temple. This iteration is actually in the UK. Our iteration, like I said, we have permits put in with the county, and Terry is magic as far as engineering goes. So he started working on what this would look like for our purposes, on our third date, here's how this came to be. On our third date, he says to me, I want to play a game. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about big houses? How do you feel about manicured gardens? How do you feel about, you can see where I'm going. And so he finishes the game with this and says, what would you say if I told you I wanted to build a telescope? I think you should. That's cool. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I want to build a big telescope. Good for you, champ. Yes, you should. It's our third date. I am not committed. You do you. And he's like, no, you're not understanding me. I want to build a big ass telescope. I'm like, well, maybe I am committed. So we thought in our ignorance and naivety that could be the observatory on the top and the tasting room on the bottom. So we went and met with Dr. Frank in Colorado, a telescope engineer. Again, in my ignorance or naivety or all of it, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a telescope engineer. But Frank is a telescope engineer, and he pretty much literally, he looked at us and went, oh, rubbed my back. No, that's not what you're gonna do. But because of temperature control and shaking and blah, blah, and pleasant things, the observatory needs to be on its own. And so the goal, well, I mean, all that being said, plague, and who can afford a 2x4, and we don't do anything until we can pay for it. So we bought a Powerball ticket last week. I'm sad to tell you we didn't win, so it's still on the someday list. So in our perfect world, I say that all the time around here, in my perfect world, this is what would happen. So the observatory would go on that far end of the vineyard over here. The tasting room, I still am real hooked on that as a tasting room because, I mean, it's beautiful. Why would you not? That'll go across the parking lot, up front, overlooking the vineyard and the valley. But again, you know, till we can afford 2x4s, and we're currently putting money into processing. So processing is the current hot plate for getting it up, and it is up and running, but getting it all in place and pretty and all the things. So that's the first priority. The telescope and the tasting room will probably come in that order, frankly.
You've already got a tasting room, but you don't have a telescope. Right,
exactly. And it's just fine. We're doing just fine with where we're at. So that's really kind of how that's going to go down.
What about on a more personal level or on kind of an event-based level? What have you not done here that you want to do?
Oh, goodness. I'm open to anything. Almost. I've gotten a lot of adventures in life, saying I'll try anything once. Bless him. He's one of them. Right. So we would like to actually do some more corporate events, because you saw the inside space is great for that. We have a big TV that people have used to put their PowerPoints or slideshows or whatever, and then we can see quite a few coming back this way, which is a lot of fun. People do ask about weddings. Frankly, they're not my favorite thing. It's a lot of saying yes for a lot of hours for a lot of people, and everybody's got an Aunt Sally, and it's not my favorite thing. But we do sometimes. When they sort of organically occur. We have one this summer because, again, folks that are here all the time. So it just is one of those things. But that's that. I really personally have a goal of blogging because I hear people all the time, locals and otherwise. In fact, yesterday somebody was having a discussion at a table I was with these people about what to do, where they're going to go, what to see next, because they moved to Oregon recently. And why go travel? Because it's all here. And I don't feel like very many people know about touristing here because we live here. And when was the last time you were at Silver Falls or took the train in Hood River? So I'd really like to do some of that kind of tourist in your hometown kind of stuff. And there's no media that's bad. Everything points back to the same direction. So that's high on my list, amongst other things. There's always more to learn about wine.
You talked earlier about sort of your initial impressions of the Oregon wine industry. I'm curious how those impressions have changed as you've become part of the industry more, and maybe where the industry seems to be headed in your opinion.
I never take lightly when someone says, "Oh, I've heard so much about you guys, I had to come check it out." Like, thank you. But I value that somebody said, because you have to hear things several times before it clicks enough to be on your list. So I really, truly never take that for granted. And that does happen now, and it does happen more often. So I really value that. And I also really value, like I said, it was really hard to get from the outside to the inside, but enough, we have enough experience to speak to enough things. We have enough reputation? I don't know. Can you say that? I don't know if you can say that when you're just a little baby. But we have enough reputation that enough people have heard, "Oh my gosh, yeah, you guys." That kind of thing. Literally, someone recently said to me, "Are you the one with the Bernese Mountain Dog?" Yes, we are. Thank you, Bella. But she works very hard. But all of those things matter because at that point now, we can have a different level of conversation than we could before. And I really, really appreciate that. And I really appreciate that more intimate level of sharing, more personal business things, even if it's just, "Dude, I got branded stuff here, check it out," or so many things, so many things. And so I really, really value that level of trust, I guess, from, again, I mean, can I say that we're peers? I think so. I think we're peers now. So I like that a lot. I really, really value that. And again, processing, Terry that's his, engineering, right? So he's really enjoyed the finding the right tanks and how he's going to fit everything in its place and running all the ducting and all the engineering, I don't even know what, and I'm happy to not. This is my end of the world. So I value that a whole lot. And I don't know, isn't that interesting that where's the industry going? Because, state of the world, that's a little bit unpleasant, a lot unpleasant. And yet, economically, even a $25 bottle of wine, when you can get a $10 bottle at the grocery store that, At some point, it's going to do the trick. But so it depends on what you're looking for, and it's so interesting because a $25 bottle of white, a $32 bottle of white, a $40 bottle of red or more, that's a commitment into your grocery budget in today's world. I find it a little concerning for those who do have a ton of debt service as to how all of that's going to play out for them. I mean, can you say the things? Because if you have to, I hate for anybody's business at all ever to fold under debt service, under an economy, under the pressure, and it's a horrible, so many sleepless nights, but then equally sitting in a place where we don't have debt service, it's a really nice thing to know that I can stay the course. So I got a game, but it's, you never want to wish ill. I want to all be friends. I want us all to make it. And then on the greater scale, man, Oregon wine, we're good. We're really good. And the wine is really good, and we do it really well. And there's so many places that don't know that yet. And I can't even tell you how many people come and go, oh, I don't like Chardonnay. Oh, I really like this Chardonnay. So often, that's exactly how that goes down. And we do it so well. So the industry, Oregon wine industry, and the industry of wine on the whole within this country is open for the takers. If we can all manage to survive the current state of the world to the next state of the world and ride the ride, and at some point, right at 58, I know I'm old and I'm tired. It's fun and I love it and it's exciting and I'm tired. Did I say I was tired? I'm so tired. But it's so fun, and so I don't know. But it's really good to be in the flow of it for the moment.
So last question for you. Your necklace says live a great story, which I already commented on and love. Tell me about this chapter of it for you, where this fits in for you, and sort of what has been rewarding about this part of the story.
It's so good. I've lost a couple 100 pounds. I've been a bodybuilder, competed, been a personal trainer, been a nurse, had a yarn shop, had a cafe. It's been a good life. It's not been a dull life. My children already know you can do anything at all, ever, you can do it. And then the Almighty brought me this man who is so brilliant, equally as type A, and with dreams of observatories and magnificent tasting rooms that are unlike anybody else's around here, probably on the whole West Coast, really, because we don't talk about the inside. But all of that, he's brilliant and magnificent and so challenging. But we together, all of this, we have 5 little businesses that all run off of this property, and it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And yet to get to be in a place where, my daughter, we did the handoff for the 10-year-old yesterday, to get to be in a place where I can say, absolutely, he can come. Absolutely. Grandpa will take him. He'll stop work early and take him out last night. Absolutely. I'll get up at 4:30 this morning and work, because then when I'm done with that, I get to take him and do these things. And if I was at the hospital, I can't do that. And that is us living a really great story where his life is different because we get to do this. And, I wish Terry was here at the moment, but again, he's so brilliant. God help me. But, he's off at this emergency fix on a machine that he built 20 years ago that just broke down. And that's unheard of in today's world. And it's so cool that he gets to be both of those guys for these people. And there's so many things about all of this that I value that become, again, it all comes back to those babies. It's like where yesterday we stopped and played with the 2-year-old and planted plants, and it's all just such a get to. And yep, there's a lot of hard work, and we don't sleep a lot. We either don't sleep or we pass out and sleep really, really hard. It's terrible. But at the same time, we're so lucky that we get to. That all of it then gets to come to that little baby, and we get to share all of that too. It's a good story. It's a good story.
It's fantastic. All the questions that I have for you. Is there anything I didn't ask that I should have? Anything you'd like to cover?
No, that's probably more than anybody wants to know about Terry and Becky Potter.
Really appreciate you taking the time to share with us, sharing this beautiful day in this beautiful space, and your great story with us. Thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and let you off the hook.
Thanks.
Thank you.